Hi, my name is Sarah Thompson, and my father is the prophet of the FLDS, Warren Jeffs. So I grew up in Texas. I was born in Utah. We moved to Texas when I was 9 months old. We lived there for about 5 years on and off, and then we lived in Colorado for the rest of my growing up years. So me and my family, Warren Jeff's family, so all 132 of us, I think, lived in Texas in this big ranch called the YFC Ranch until about 2012. So we all lived in this big house. It had several rooms, there's like a hotel, basically. So the FLDS it stands for Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So it's a break-off of the LDS church, but it's very different. Warren Jeffs is the leader, the prophet, that is what we called him, of the FLDS church. Growing up as a daughter of Warren Jeffs was kind of like royalty in a way, but also you had a lot more pressure to be like perfect. I remember when I was like 5 years old, the mothers would be saying, well, the other children are watching, so you have to act like perfect because you're Warren Jeffs' daughter. We woke up at 5 a.m. every day. While we lived in Texas, then we would have to wake up earlier to feed the cows, the chickens. Then we had this thing called Good Words. It was where we read from the sermon books of another one of the prophets before my father. That lasted for an hour while breakfast was being made. Then we had breakfast at 7, and then school, if we did have school, usually started at 8, went to 3. After that, we just did chores, which cleaning and dishes, because dishes for a family of 132 people last hours. And then class would be where we would just listen to things that Father would talk about, and that one lasts for an hour from 6 till 7. And then the class after that was usually for the adults or the people above 12 years old, and that would last from 8 to 9. And then you were supposed to go to bed immediately afterwards, and then it would start all over again. The things we did for fun is basically just play in the mud. It got a lot more narrow. Like, we used to be able to play tag and like a couple games like that, but then when Father told us that we couldn't play games anymore, then it kind of got a lot more narrowed down to just little things that we had to learn to enjoy. So personally, I feel like he got more strict because he felt like he was losing power. I'm not really sure. I was just kind of in the middle of all of it, and the messages or letters that he would send from prison just got a lot more strict over time. I think honestly it was just fun for him, because when he would take families apart, pull fathers away, or take the mothers and children apart, for years at a time, it wouldn't really benefit him other than make the people scared of him. Basically, the only reason that Father got powerful in the first place was fear. So my father went to prison when I was 3.5 years old, I think. He went to prison for as an accomplice. He some 12-year-old girls that he married. He had several wives that were like under the age of 18, like a lot of them. He went to prison in 2006. So yeah, that was when I was 3 years old. So my mom is the 8th wife, and she was barely 19 when she was married, so she wasn't one of the child brides. So I was never presented as someone being like a young girl, but I was told to prepare for marriage when I was like right before I turned 12, I think. And it was by some of the people who had been married to Father when they were 12. They were told to believe that it was like a good experience or whatever. And maybe some of it was, maybe like the new world or getting to see all these new people. Maybe that was cool. But it wasn't until after I left till I found out who Father was planning on for me to get married to. And it was my sister Rachel's husband. So basically all the men who married girls that were from the Jeffs family were the highest families up, like they meant the most to the FLDS. So I have a couple of sisters that are married to like this one man, and most of them had children by him except like the youngest. She was married around 15, I think. She didn't have kids by him, I'm assuming because he was put in prison. All the girls were starting to be prepared for marriage like very young, all of our lives. But I don't think that Father really decided who I was going to marry until I was around 15 or something. So I was going to be married to one of my sister's husbands. The reason it didn't ever happen is probably because we left like right after they found that out. But honestly, if I was to be married to anybody in the FLDS, he wouldn't be a bad choice because he was a very kind dad. He wasn't like one of the very abusive ones. So there's that. I was 15 years old the day that Mom told me that basically everything I ever knew was a lie, that my father wasn't the prophet wasn't like the God, he wasn't on a pedestal like we put him on. It kind of just all hit me in the face. She's like, I'm just going to tell you something. You need to hear it. We were out on a drive and I was just like, oh my gosh, what is it? Like, did someone die? She just said, basically your whole life you've been told stuff that is not true. Your father is actually like this criminal. And it kind of just all hit me at once. And I just sat there in my seat and just stared to the road. And then I just burst into tears. We just cried together for a couple of hours. It was really emotional. And it took probably like a couple of years to like get it all into my head. I would go through my mind like at night and just sit there, is this real? Like, am I really this age? Am I really his daughter? Like, am I really mom's child? So my mom and me were not together most of my life because she was the caretaker of like 5 other girls, and my caretaker was a different mother that was in charge of me and 2 other girls. I personally got to be with my mom every day at 3 p.m. for 1 hour. That was about it until father would like take us apart for a couple of years, bring us back together. Most of the time when she walked in the door, I didn't know who it was because we were like apart for so long. I was like, who's that? Like, that's your mother. So the reason that I can think of is why we were listening to my father when he was still in prison, like after he was put in prison, is through fear, through brainwash. We just believed. Some people didn't, some people questioned, and they were immediately sent away. So when you're sent away, then usually you go to a place where you live alone, all by yourself. The only contact you have with other humans, or are supposed to have with other humans, is the people who bring your groceries like once a month. And sometimes they would forget to bring you groceries, so you basically just starve. Being sent away can last like years, months, sometimes days, weeks, just whenever father remembered that you were alive. I wasn't that close to him, but he did send me a lot of messages. I feel like I was as close to him as a lot of the other girls or children. I became one of the least favorites very quickly in my family. Even after I had went into public high school, right after my mom spilled everything to me, that like everything was a lie. I didn't even know how sex worked. I just knew that you got married and then you had children. So I figured it was just through kissing, but so I didn't know it was. My mom explained that to me a lot later. So my father's in prison for life plus 25 years. Basically, after he was put in prison, nothing happened. Things just went on as usual. He did appoint like the first presidency to kind of make sure everything was carried out that he gave us permission to do or told us to do, like all the messages and everything. And then he put these people called guiding elders, who were usually his brothers. You would have to get approval from them before you did anything or sent a package, simple things like that. So currently the church is still going on. There's a lot less people because more people have realized that it's just BS and have left, but it's still going on. We went into hiding, my mom and I, right after the raid because father told us that the Gentiles, or normal people that weren't part of the FLDS, were trying to kill us and would possibly kill us if they got us. So after we went into hiding, we lived in hiding for 13 years roughly until we were kicked out, or father told my mother that she was sent away forever because she committed adultery or did like those things with me, which is just insane. And I didn't even know what adultery meant. So father had me sit and listen to the message that he gave her, which was quite dark. And then that sent her away forever. And then we left, which was in 2018, the end of July. So hiding is where they would rent these houses, these really nice houses, and it would be on several acres, sometimes half of a mountain, and you were not supposed to be seen by anyone. So for 13 years in hiding, we just tried to do what we could. My mom got this survival book, and we would go build like cabins, push over trees. We had quite a bit of property on most of the houses, but eventually then father gave this rule that you could not go away from sight of the house. So it made that a lot harder. After we left, when we're trying to get used to the normal world, when anyone would ding the doorbell or anything, we would just go hide under the bed. It was like an immediate reaction. So me and my mom finally left when she felt like father was just hurting us, his kids, like her kids. Father had already sent Wendell away, my older brother, when he was 14 years old to just live on his own, and mom was really mad about that. So she wrote to father and said, I don't want you to talk to my kids anymore. Like, you're just hurting them, you're ruining their lives, you're making it like we've made a life for ourselves now and you want us to ruin it for you. So she said, I won't do it anymore. A couple months later, then that's when we left. So being a part of the Gentile world, it was really strange. And I was excited. I was really excited, but I was terrified. I was not around people at all very much. I was very shy. I couldn't talk normal. I mean, I could talk normal. It's just very much FLDS-like. So it's a lot slower, really hushed, really quiet, because that's how we were taught to talk. So when I first walked into public school, it was so loud. Boys were like so close to girls, and it was really terrifying. Any guy teacher, I would just be like looking at the ground all the time because, we were supposed to respect the man. So yeah, that was like my main experience with the Gentile world, just immediately being pushed out into that. But with our friends, our close friends who were Gentiles or normal people, they were very understanding. They helped us a lot and just took it slow, helped us take it slow and get used to everything out here. My mom started dating this sheriff right after we left because he was the one that was our hero. That's how they met, is like he saved a little boy from drowning, and that little boy just happened to be one of the FLDS boys that I taught when I was 14 years old. That's how they met, and she was dating him during that time. She had babysitting jobs on and off because we weren't very qualified for many jobs. So the only ones we could really get is babysitting or FLDS jobs, and we couldn't get FLDS jobs. So honestly, I feel like now I have adapted. I feel like now I have adapted a lot better with life, with going through 4 years of high school. That definitely helped me a lot. I feel like that is one thing that just kind of pushed me a lot faster to become more normal. I had to learn how to talk fast. I had to learn who Taylor Swift was. I had to learn who my favorite artist was because, those simple questions in school, like, what's your favorite song? What's your favorite food? What's your favorite candy? I was like, what's candy? That definitely pushed me a lot to become more normal. And my style has changed a lot. Talking to boys has not gone well. No, haven't had a boyfriend yet. I guess a lot of like the trauma with men or whatever. I would like to blame it on that. I have gone to a couple of dances with boys. I don't know. I guess a lot of guys just don't like me or something. I know I'll find him someday. Probably not in like my small town. I just need to get out there. So throughout the FLDS, we were taught to keep our emotions very pushed down, very hidden. Even smiling was like closed lips smile. Never cried. Like there was like gaps, 3-4 years, never cried once. Even when we would get hurt, we were just supposed to like pray that Heavenly Father would make it better. And I broke a lot of bones. But coming out here, learning to like even lift your arms above your head when you're dancing, that was a big, like very hard, just had to do with emotions. Learning to show your happiness on your face or your sadness, learn to talk to people. But I have not gone to therapy yet. I need to, like I know it would help me, but I just haven't done it yet. Sometimes when I see kids living like a normal life with their father right there, I look back and I'm just like, why did I have to be born to him? Like, did I do something in the before life that made it so I was born to him? But then my mom, who is an angel, I was born to her. I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad at even my father for being born into the FLDS. I know it's not even, it kind of was his choice, but I just mostly envy the kids who have like a normal childhood, like knew what toys were when they were little. So I am quite close to several of my sisters, the ones who have left, and my brothers. There's a lot fewer boys who have left the FLDS. We understand what everybody has been through. We've obviously had totally different experiences because most of the time we weren't together. Most of the time, even if we lived in the same house, we were supposed to be locked in like our rooms or something. Especially me, because supposedly I was always doing bad things that I had no idea about. Several times they would come to me and be like, I had a dream that you did this, so we gotta lock you in your room. I was like, what? What did I do? They're like, I can't tell you. Like, you will know what you did. So it was really confusing. I'd be like, can I have food? And they'd be like, a little bit. Father would give us messages and he would be like, girls, like all of you girls are like doing immoral things. Like, so all we could think of is, are we doing it in our sleep? So you would just lay awake, like pinch yourself to stay awake so that you wouldn't do these bad things. And you would never go alone because then he would tell you that you would do them when you were alone. And my advice to people who are still in there, like especially my family, is to just stop and think. Get the internet, search up things. Video evidence will not lie. And the things that Father has said in prison that is actually videoed, it's not going to lie. And how Father has told us to not have the internet because of those very reasons. And people who are thinking of joining, don't do it. Literally just think. And if you're a woman, all your rights will be taken away. So don't join. The prophet would just pick who you were going to marry. You could be 13 years old, marry a 92-year-old man. It was crazy. I always just prayed that I wouldn't marry someone that I couldn't have children with because they were too old. At the most 20 years older than me. We were very watched over, I guess. There was one man, didn't have to be related to us, but he was always the caretaker over the house of hiding. There had to be a man watching over us at all times because we were women. We were so precious, or whatever. That's what Father would always tell us. He would send several messages saying we were so precious and that we couldn't be seen by the Gentile world because we were too pure. And then the next day he would send a message, you people are evil. So it was really hard to understand what to believe. I don't have a relationship with my father. He's actually in like a mental psych ward of the prison, and he believes that me and my mom and my brother are immortal. So we live on, I think it's Mars or Venus. We can't do any wrong. So obviously, all of a sudden we go from bad, like the worst of the worst, because we're Warren Jeff's family who apostatized, big news. And now we're all these immortal people on Mars. So yes, the FLDS is a cult. You can't really join or leave. Very, very few people joined. I've heard of this one woman that almost joined, and then she just became really spooked out by a lot of the guys there. I think everybody who has left the FLDS in a whole, there's a lot of people who leave the FLDS and just immediately go to drugs, alcohol, which if you need to do that, then totally do it. But Mom personally did not want that for us. She wanted us to come out and be the best people that we could be, and that is why she left, is for us, for her kids. And marrying Dad was a big plus. I remember looking at how Dad would like treat his daughters or his family, and I would only just look at them and be so jealous, just envious. I wanted a dad like that, and I do. He's my dad now. It was big for me. We definitely went through some stuff to get used to it. Obviously, we were so used to having a guy always tell us what to do. We'd have to check in whenever we did anything. So Mom would always be checking in with him. Be like, can I go to the store? And Dad would be like, why are you asking me? He was the one that told Mom when she asked him, I just want to know the truth. He told her straight everything that he knew about the FLDS was true, because my dad now was actually my father's personal bodyguard in prison when he was very first taken into custody. So he actually knows Father like very well. So the reason I use Father with Warren Jeff, that sounds weird, and Dad with my dad now is because we were told to use Father all the time. It was just respect, respect, respect with Warren Jeffs. And so that's what I grew up calling him. But Dad, I feel like he earned that. He earned the title of Dad. And he treats me like a dad would treat his daughter. That's why I call them Father or Dad. So the reason I share my story is honestly just to get it out there, to talk about it. I know it's not really talked about that much in a lot of places, but I know it needs to be. Like, a lot of people who are still in the FLDS have seen what I've posted and contacted me how they should get out of the FLDS. So I feel like that has helped a lot. And also another reason is just for me to just get it off my mind, just to get it on paper, to put it out there. And also because we were supposed to keep it such a secret. So this is kind of a way of rebelling. I'm not going to keep it a secret. Like, it may hurt people who are still in, but it will bless them a whole lot more once they come out. So I have this big dream. I really hope it will come true, but I want to get a tiny house and put it on like 10, 15 acres of like really wooded land, partly because I grew up in Colorado where it was really wooded and had streams and stuff. And it's kind of just my happy place. Like, I want to get a blue shepherd, which is a black wolf mixed with a black German shepherd. I'm just really into big dogs. I want to train it to be like my service dog / guard dog, so we can live out in the woods together. It just sounds fun. So for me, my life, my dream is to get into some kind of modeling, like fashion. I love fashion. I really want to work with animals too. I'm thinking maybe I'll get into some kind of social media so that it can give me the money to do what I've always dreamed to do and travel. So I feel like there is some pluses and some downsides to starting over your whole life, like at 15 years old. I was like a year behind in high school because I taught kids for the year that I was supposed to be going to freshman year, but I was homeschooled. So in homeschool for 8th grade, then I did 8th and 9th grade because it was very personalized. Like my mom taught me, she wanted me to be as smart as I could be, and most people stopped at 8th grade. So when I went into high school, I was actually ahead of the kids that were there, but they didn't let me test for some reason. So I don't really feel like there was a big downside to it. I did graduate high school at 19 years old, which is kind of old, but I'm out here now. I mean, I could be older. I could be 25 and leaving the FLDS, which would be a lot worse. And if there is people who, which there is, I have a 40-year-old brother who's never been married, but if he left the FLDS right now, it's not too late. It's never too late to do your dreams. I've always wanted to do dance, just express myself through movement like that, ballet, contemporary, just all the different dances. Hey, thanks for listening to my story. I hope you took from this that you can think for yourself. Just because your parents are bad or whatever does not mean that you have to be. And have a great day.